Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Sette. As always, I'm abundantly grateful to have this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we're looking towards the month of February of 2024. We don't have a lot going on regarding significant planetary activity in the month of February. You know, there's always something taking place on any given day. If you just observe how quickly the moon moves, it's constantly making some sort of alignment, hour to hour, sometimes even moment to moment. But in these segments, I address the more significant aspects. If I were to address all the planetary influences, these videos would be infinitely long and just so too overwhelming. So we only address the more prominent ones that take place during a given month. We address the full moons, the new moons, the sun shifting signs, and any other major aspect that may be occurring on a planetary level. So we do begin February on February 9th. We have our next new moon, and as always, the few days before the new moon, which I've referred to is as the balsamic moon, which is the opportunity to prepare for the next lunar cycle. Our new moon in February is on February 9th, and the exact time of the new moon is 5:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The balsamic moon phase begins on February 6th, and that exact time is actually 11:11. We like that, 11:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the period that begins our preparation opportunity for the coming new moon, which our new moon is February 9th, 5:59 p.m., and it is in the sign of Aquarius. Now, on this new moon, we have four elements in the sign of Aquarius. We have Pluto, Mercury, the sun and moon, all in the sign of Aquarius. Many have heard how Pluto has transitioned into the sign of Aquarius. It hasn't completely moved into Aquarius yet. It's in the early stages. In September, it will be dipping back into Capricorn, and on November, I believe it's November 14th, that's when Pluto fully begins its passage of Aquarius and will remain in Aquarius for about 20 years. Pluto requires quite a bit of time to transit the signs because of how slow it moves. The outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are referred to as the generational planets, where certainly their influence can be felt on us on a personal level, but because they are so slow moving and they begin longer cycles of experience that really connect with generations and generational experiences, they are referred to as the generational planets. However, they do have influence on our charts personally. And with any planetary alignment, you know, in these segments, I share general understandings of the energies, and to really know at a greater level how they are affecting us on a personal level, we need to see how they are aligning precisely in our astrological charts. You know, one individual may not necessarily feel the effects as much as someone else. It may be because to some the alignments are more exacting than with others. You know, whenever we come together, whenever I work with clients on a one-to-one individual basis, I look to see what is occurring in terms of exact planetary alignments and how they are placed in the chart, what other planets are being affected, what sectors of the charts are being energized. That's how we understand on a personal level how to work with all of this. However, in these segments, it's impossible to do something like that. So we offer points of reference as to how to navigate and to make the most of the alignments. I've always said that any alignment, even one that might appear as though to be negative, when we really understand how to work with those vibrational frequency from a high level vibration, then we bring to form the more favorable aspect, or excuse me, the more favorable outcome of the aspect. If we're too concentrated on the low vibrational frequency, then perhaps we miscreate and bring to form the adverse outcome of any situation. It's all about understanding how to work with the energy. Any planet, any sign has a low vibration and a high vibration, and whatever it is that we are, or rather whatever polarity we are directing our attention, that's what we're going to bring to form. And I always say that when we do understand how to work with all of this, we really do become the master of our destiny, and we empower ourselves at recognizing our own power and how all of this are tools for us to navigate this human form. As always, I digressed a little bit. However, as I was emphasizing, we have a high concentration of that Aquarius energy in the new moon chart, and all of that is concentrated to the sector of the chart that represents, one, our service to humanity, as well as health and well-being. So that being said, I'm always suggesting how every one of us is being inspired to really recognize our service to humanity. With the sign of Aquarius, the alternative modalities, metaphysics, astrology, alternative healthcare, alternative healing modalities are really being activated and elevated. So those of us who are in the alternative, if you will, professions, which in the coming times will be very much part of the norm, if you will. They won't necessarily be considered alternative any longer, but very much part of the routines and the normal, if you will, modalities for addressing optimum wellness and perfect health. This new moon is an opportunity to explore those modalities. If you find yourself being inspired to research and conduct some exploration regarding alternative treatments for yourself or a loved one or anyone else for that matter, this new moon really is giving us the opportunity to recognize what is available for everyone to embrace in terms of these alternatives. I don't always like to use that term alternative because it does sometimes suggest something that may not necessarily be favorable. However, we want to embrace more so perhaps the spiritual side of all of this, because that Aquarius energy does give us the opportunity to tap into abstract higher levels of thinking. Aquarius is the sign that represents the genius mentality, and genius thinking. And I've said quite often that every one of us has the opportunity to tap into and demonstrate and bring to form genius levels of thinking. It doesn't mean that we have to be great scientists or great metaphysicians, or great mathematicians. That genius level of our potential is very unique and specific to every one of us, and it only suggests the ability to tap into out-of-the-box alternative abstract thinking in many forms, in many realms, in many subjects. So at this new moon, what I would suggest is allow yourself to consider your own genius potential in whatever form that might be. That genius thinking, again, is the ability to tap into unconventional, abstract, if you will, alternative, out-of-the-box levels of thinking. That's all that Aquarius energy that really is being shared with us, and we're being inspired to explore about ourselves. You know, the Pluto transiting into the sign of Aquarius, it really is catapulting the advent of the New Age. The New Age really began, or rather, the shift towards New Age really began in the 1960s, and we're all familiar with the song, and or the phrase in the song, "the dawning of the age of Aquarius." The 60s really were the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and that began with, in the 1960s, there was an alignment with Pluto and the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, and they were in conjunction, in close proximity to one another. A conjunction aspect is just as what occurs on a new moon when two elements are at the same location along the signs of the zodiac. In the mid 60s, Uranus and Pluto were in conjunction, were in alignment, were directly connected to one another. When two elements come together, as the sun and moon does on a new moon, it indicates the beginning of a new cycle of experience. So in the 1960s, when Pluto and Uranus came together, it really began the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Those who were born in the 1960s are very much the instruments which are helping to facilitate really the beginning of all the times, especially that we are in right now. So now that Pluto has transitioned into Aquarius, at certain times we will notice that there is an acceleration moving towards that new age and the age of Aquarius. When the actual onset of that time will begin is questionable. Based on my calculations, I believe I came up with the year 2164, around that time, which actually will be the next time that Uranus and Neptune align with one another. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that we are not offered the opportunity to really enjoy that humanitarian quality, that age of brotherhood. That's all about Pluto moving into Aquarius. That those humanitarian opportunities that are available for all of us, and really having that understanding that we are all one and that we are very much connected to one another. This new moon certainly is inspiring everyone to recognize that. That being said, Aquarius also brings forth great and sometimes powerful and profound changes. But that doesn't mean that we need to be unsettled by the change. When we are anchored and grounded, especially with the energies of the earth, whenever change is brought forth, is presented to us, we are able to weather the discomfort, if you will, with grace and ease. I always use the analogy, Aquarius represents electricity. So just understand how in an electrical outlet, so the outlets and the circuit doesn't short circuit, there's a grounding pole. So that when there's a surge of energy, it counteracts any negative influence that may be brought forth because of that surge. So with all of this change and with the heightening of so much energy, the amplification and elevation to higher levels of vibrational frequency energy, so that we aren't short-circuited, we need to be very aware to keep ourselves grounded, because so much energy is going to be accelerated and activated with this Aquarius new moon, especially because of Pluto transiting into the sign of Aquarius. And this is the first new moon when Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius. As I said, the sector of the chart that represents our service to humanity, as well as health and wellness, is energized. So we're all being inspired to really explore and embrace these alternative modalities to really assist us with our personal wellness and health care. All of this is very personal and very much specific to the individuals. There's no wrong or right to any of this. These are opportunities for everyone to explore these alternative modalities, because the conventional health care as well as conventional mental health will not really be present in the time comes, because it just doesn't work. None of this really has a spiritual foundation. And in order for us to correct any discord, any imbalance, it first needs to be addressed spiritually, and for us to recognize the spiritual and metaphysical origins of the discord and the imbalances. Once we have the courage to embrace it and understand it and recognize the origins of those inharmonious experiences and correct it from that perspective, then whatever healing, if you want to use that term, is even more effective. And we empower ourselves even greater to really recognize how instrumental we are in creating an optimum wellness regimen program for ourselves on a personal level. Again, so much is shifting with this Aquarius energy. Certainly, whenever we talk about shifts and changes and the possibility of disruptions or chaos, we're not here to create fear. The more that we can be aware, the more that we empower ourselves, and the more that we can allow ourselves to remember that power within ourselves, there's really nothing to be afraid of, because we know that no matter what, we're going to be okay. And that Aquarius energy really is creating shifts in terms of higher consciousness, spiritual consciousness. We're all being inspired to recognize that we are spiritual beings. We're really here having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. This human physical form that sometimes, certainly feels very thick and very dense. Sometimes it's a challenge for the spirit to embody in this human overcoat. And so these alternative modalities assists us in making this journey a little bit more comfortable, and so that we can certainly enjoy the journey and enjoy the experience. Aquarius is the sign of friends, hopes, and wishes. Allow yourself through this experience, and especially with this new moon, that perhaps you're being inspired to recognize and connect with your personal individual tribe, those that vibrate at the same level that you are vibrating, at that same frequency. And just because someone else may not necessarily be there, it doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It's just a different vibrational frequency. So allow yourself to be okay with exploring and really embracing those like-minded individuals and creating your personal individual tribe, if you will. We've gotten very much away from these communities and these tribes. And these experiences, these social settings, when we have that strong core, really does create very powerful communities. But you see how it all begins with little small groups, and then it spreads out to communities, it spreads out to our towns, our states, our countries, and our world overall. We're so being inspired to recognize that even though someone's on the other side of the world, we're very much connected with them. Uranus and the Aquarius actually rules the internet, and it was in the late 80s when there became the advent of the internet, and has to do with Uranus and Neptune aligning in those times. And the times that we're in right now, we're so being offered the opportunities to really recognize that even though someone's on the other side of the world, energetically and spiritually, we're still so very, very much connected to them. And speaking of spirituality, on February 19th at 1:13 p.m., the sun will transit into the sign which most represents spirituality, and that is Pisces. Wherever the sun is transiting, those are the the facets of our human potential that we are being inspired to explore. The sun moving into the sign of Pisces, which is also the sign which has it has the highest level of psychic sensitivity, along with Cancer and Scorpio. We're being inspired to recognize our own psychic potential, if you will. Doesn't mean that everyone is to go out and conduct psychic readings or events or set up, a little tent on the boardwalk. This is for us to recognize how spirit is guiding us and our connection with spirit and the spirit realm, and that intuitiveness that we all have, those gut instincts. When the sun transits into the sign of Pisces, excuse me, there's an alignment with the moon and the rising sign, which the moon is in the sign of Cancer and the rising sign is Scorpio. It creates what's known as a trine alignment. So it's a triangle. That alignment allows energy to flow with effortless ease. Sometimes with that alignment, what may be encountered is a missed opportunity, because with that type of an arrangement, you have to just allow yourself to really recognize and go with the flow of the energy. That's what brings it all together. Sometimes we are trying very hard to make something happen, and in that trying, sometimes we're inadvertently pushing something away. When we are allowing ourselves to really go with the flow, to recognize that allowing element and to work with the tides and the cycles and the flows, that's what causes spirits and nature, if you will, to just effortlessly bring everything together for us. But when I'm suggesting to recognize how our own personal intuitiveness is being heightened, especially as the sun transits into the sign of Pisces this year, we've also have had Saturn for about a year now transiting the sign of Pisces, which overall, it's clearing up a lot of karma that's been kind of running amok in the outside world, which whenever there's an intensified period of karmic clearing, it's the universe's way of preparing us for something greater, because then we don't have to worry about contending with these karmic issues, that we are free to really embrace and explore whatever comes next. Also, we have to be aware of just kind of random rogue psychic energy just kind of running amok out in the world. So certainly allow yourselves to continually explore modalities for spiritual and psychic protection. Every one of us is really supposed to understand how to work with energy, especially in terms of keeping ourselves shielded, guarded, and protected against psychic attacks, or even just, random rogue psychic energy that sometimes runs amok in the outside world, so that we don't have to contend with any negative effects of those low vibrational frequencies experiences. So it's also another opportunity to explore protection, how to clear yourself energetically, and how to work with those modalities to keep yourself very balanced and grounded. Now, on February 24th, we have our next full moon. The full moon, the exact time of the full moon is on February 24th, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the full moon is in the earlier degrees of Virgo. It's at 5 and a half degrees of Virgo. So at the full moon, especially because it's in the early stages of Virgo, the Virgo Pisces polarity is energized. The moon is in the sign of Virgo, the sun is in the sign of Pisces. The Virgo Pisces polarity really energizes fear and faith. The Virgo element sometimes can stir up some fears, but many times when all of that is being stirred up, it's being energized, is because it's an opportunity to release it. So that fear faith element polarity is very much being activated at this full moon in February. So one, I do suggest to recognize if there are any fears that are coming to the surface, release them. Whenever those experiences, whenever those situations arise and are bubbling to the surface, it's because it's an opportunity to release them and to let them go. And sometimes we have experiences where trauma from the past is also coming to the surface, and it's an opportunity to clear, cleanse, purge, release, and to let it go. We're preparing for the next eclipse season, which is in March and April. The April 8th eclipse, which is known as the next great American eclipse, is very powerful and very profound, and is creating shifts in consciousness, specifically here in the United States, towards those higher levels of consciousness, and how every one of us is instrumental in really creating something great in our nation, first on a personal level, and then at that community tribe level, and then at the collective level in terms of the masses of this country. So what I'm suggesting to continue recognizing, if there's any discord, any fear, which always interferes with our well-being and our wellness, that's a whole separate video I have, which is entitled Fear Which Interferes. This is a time, another opportunity to let it go and to release it so that it no longer interferes with your joy and happiness. The full moon is also, as the new moon was energizing, the full moon is also energizing the sector of the chart that does represent wellness. So allow yourself to really recognize what is required on you, and this again is very, very personal and very specific to us individually, what we need to be aware of to enjoy optimum wellness, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. If there are any of those imbalances there, certainly it's time to release the discord and welcome anew. Once again, I'm Spiritualist Psychic Astrologer Sette. Thank you for offering me this opportunity to continually inspire you on your journey. We're already solidifying my next return to Florida, which will be in April. So those of you who would like to meet with me, my book is open and we're already scheduling appointments for my April return, and I very much look forward to seeing everyone again very, very soon. Stay in the light and always in a place of love. Namaste, everyone.